talk about a layered approach to web and application security. See if I can figure this out. So just a little bit of background about Array. We're founded in 2000. Our headquarters is in Milpitas, California, so right in San Jose, Silicon Valley. We have about 250 employees. We're global, so worldwide. Our market is application delivery networking, which, you know, kind of at the end, I'll give you our sales pitch a little bit. You'll kind of see what products we have, where we fit. You'll see the two products that we focus in on are our ADC and our SSL VPN. We play in pretty much every segment, over 30 patents and 5,000 plus customers worldwide. So just a little bit about us. So we're going to talk about a multi-layer approach. What does that actually mean? So everybody knows today that in order to secure your network, your internal resources, you need more than one device, right? So no longer can you just have a firewall out there and say, okay, I'm a good walk away, and you have no problems. Okay? So what I want to talk about is kind of the SSL level, where we fit, where Array fits, where we believe what is important today, because you have your firewall, you have your other intrusion detection or intrusion prevention, you have malware applications, you have everything running around the perimeter. What do you do for SSL? Okay? We're going to talk about what you can do, what products are available, and how they actually function on our network. Okay? We all know that SSL traffic is on the rise. You know, you go to any website right now, you don't put HTTPS, what happens? You get redirected. Okay? So, what are we protecting against? I'm sure everybody's familiar with this, right? So, buffer overflow attack, denial of service attack, SIM flood attack. So, there's a lot out there. Okay? We have to protect ourselves, got to protect the network. Okay? So, how do we do it? Firewall, everybody knows firewalls. That's kind of like the first thing, you set up a network, you want to make sure it's secure, you put a firewall in. Okay? First line of defense. Okay? Then let's go to the bottom right here. Advanced security appliances, maybe advanced intrusion prevention or intrusion protection. Other appliances out there. And then we have SSL termination and traffic inspection. Okay? So basically, when SSL comes in, having an appliance being able to decrypt that, inspect it, and then pass it through. And actually, do content-based filtering, all kinds of filtering to make sure that the traffic that's coming in is actually good and valid, and then sending it back. Okay? So, a little bit here, it's a little design. You got your firewall, you got your external users, okay? You got your internal applications and users. So, the APV, that's our device, but let's just talk about an application delivery controller. What is its function? Okay. Anybody here have experience with ADCs? Use a lot of them out there. You know, the Array Networks has one, F5 has one. There's a lot out there. What is their purpose? Well, when originally they were load balancers. Okay, so you'd have, maybe an Exchange environment, and you had multiple CAS servers sitting behind, and you wanted to distribute that load to the back-end servers. Okay, so you put a load balancer in. So it's evolved. Okay, so now in ADC, it's responsible for load balancing. It's also responsible to offload SSL. Okay, so you can remove your SSL from the real servers, or the CAS servers, or any application server, put them on an application delivery controller, where now the application delivery controller can then decrypt that, accept the traffic, decrypt it, inspect it, and then pass the traffic back. So you're adding that extra layer there. So you're not just forwarding SSL traffic right back to those real services. And there's some key improvements there when you do that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But adding that one function there is another layer of security. Okay? Making sure that the connections coming in are wanted connections that you want to have flow into your internal network. Right here, our AG, that's our product, but let's just say SSL VPN. Okay? SSL VPN is key, remote access. How many people here provide remote access to their employees? Okay? How many people just do use layer 3 VPN? How many people here are doing any type of proxy web application for SSL? Okay. So, before, if you wanted remote access, you'd have to jump through hoops, you'd get a layer 3 VPN, and it would have to be on a managed device. And it could take a lot of time, a lot of frustration to get that done. Okay? And that still exists, and there's still a need for that. But Anymore, you want to give your remote users the ability to access internal resources, maybe from their mobile device, bring your own device, maybe their laptop, maybe their home computer. Maybe you don't want to give everybody in your company laptops to take home and then have to manage that. You want them to be able to go on their home computer and just get back to the resources. Okay? So the SSL VPN appliance is what you're looking for is another layer of security. Users come into that SSL VPN where they can authenticate using maybe even two-factor authentication, and then be presented with internal resource links to get back to those internal applications. So what we like to say is secure remote access by giving users the ability to get to internal resources without ever giving the user a network connection. Okay? And that's where our product falls in line. And there's a lot of SSL VPN products out there that will do that as well. Okay? We'll talk about ours in a little bit. But in addition, maybe getting back to their desktop. How many users let their employees get back to their physical desktops at the office? Okay. So it used to be, again, layer 3 VPN, you make that connection, then from there you go to your desktop. Okay. Or maybe you used to open up port 3389 to a terminal server. Okay, you can't do that anymore. There's a lot of regulations out there, some requirements that do not allow you to do that. So SSL VPN now gives you the ability to proxy your remote desktop sessions. Okay, the user connects to, say, an access gateway or an appliance. That session is terminated, and then they proxy an internal connection to the desktop. Okay? And again, you want this ability not just from their Windows system, not from a Mac, but also from Linux, from a Android, iOS device, any device. Okay, and you want to be assured that when they make that connection, they're not going to bring in any vulnerabilities to your network. Okay? So it's not just the firewall anymore. It's not just back here, the more advanced filtering, but you have to look at the SSL and how you're going to inspect that traffic and allow secure connections to come in and get to the back-end resources here. Any questions so far? Good? All right. So what do we have next here? So when we talk about multi-layer, we also look at the IP stack. Okay? Not everything is layer 3 anymore. Okay? But you want to make sure that your appliances can handle security at layer 3, layer 4, and layer 7. Okay? Not all products, not one single product can do that all by itself. Okay? So our products alone aren't going to do everything. Okay? Just like other products out there alone are not going to do everything. But you need purpose-built devices or appliances or software that handle each layer for the specific applications or resources that you're going to expose out to the internet. Okay? So layer 3, looking at the filtering, access control lists, permit deny, VLAN MNet. Okay? Layer 4, stateful inspection, reverse proxy. Layer 7, content filtering, WAF and DDoS. Okay? So again, it's not just looking at a simplistic approach as, I put a firewall in and it's just going to do this. It's not just, it's multiple devices that together work to best protect the network. That's kind of what we focus in. So at Array, when we talk to our customers, you get an idea of what their applications are, what they're doing, and kind of how we can fit in. Because a lot of customers will say, well, we don't have a need for load balancing. Okay? And that might be true, but load balancers are packed filled with other features and functions that may provide an additional layer of security for your network that you just might not have and you could benefit from. Okay? So SSL VPN, some of the things that you want to look at, endpoint security. So you have managed devices out there and you're going to give that layer 3. How do you ensure or make sure that device should be connecting to your network? So you need a product that's going to be able to scan, scan to make sure the personal firewall might be enabled. Maybe make sure antivirus software is installed and up to date. Check the operating system service pack and patches. Okay? So endpoint security is critical. On managed assets, you want to make sure that when that connection is coming in, that connection cannot bring anything negative into your environment. Okay? So, advanced authentication. How many people here are using two-factor? Okay. What do you use just offhand?
Interest.
Okay.
Duo.
Duo? Okay. So yeah, some of the big ones, Duo, RSA, there's a lot of them out there. But really, if you don't have it, you should get it, okay? What is it? Okay, yeah. So there are many methods of doing it. I mean, Duo, very cost effective. And you know, they have a large range of support out there. But if you're not doing two-factor for remote access, you need to really look into it. Making sure that the user that's trying to connect is the actual user that's trying to connect. Okay? So if you're going to allow that remote access, make sure you have a product that's going to allow you to do two-factor. Okay? You know, LDAP, Active Directory, you know, local DB for smaller environments. SSL client certs is another method. So you have mobile devices, and there's not a lot known about mobile devices, how they can get hacked. It's, you know, we're learning more, but being able to put a cert on a mobile device that your appliance or your remote application looks at to make sure that, hey, that is the right device. Now let's have them authenticate. It's another way of doing it. Okay? So as many checks and balances before letting traffic through. Obviously, keep in mind that you don't want to create a big hurdle for the end user. So there's a lot of good products out there that can help you with that. Deep packet inspection and web resource mapping. So making sure that these products are actually going to inspect the traffic. Make sure that, again, the source going to the destination is legit. Make sure that we're not passing anything bad through the network. Web resource mapping. Being able to provide access to internal applications without giving the user a connection to the network. So,
does that include like application layer functionality?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, just a little overview of the SSL VPN architecture here, and then we'll get more into the ADC. Again. Get the endpoint checking being done before the SSL is decrypted. Okay? Yeah, authentication, there's some firewall policies, and the proxy. Okay? So there's multiple steps before you get back to these web apps, file shares, desktops, and networks. Okay? There's multiple layers. Okay? Checks and balances. Just a little kind of diagram of what these products should be capable of handling. So if you're looking for a product that's really going to work for you and provide the security level that you need and give you the functions, look at your home and small office workers. Okay? Making sure that they can connect in with bring your own devices and then you can feel safe knowing that they're going to get through without exposing your network. Platforms, you know, Apple, PC, making sure that you know, remote access can be done from any device. Your remote workers and road warriors. I consider myself one of those. I don't have a desk at the office. I travel all the time, so I have my laptop. Okay. I have a layer 3 VPN. I'm one of those users that has to have it. Well, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but what can your device do to make sure that that laptop, when it makes that network connection, can only access the resources that it should be allowed to access? How do you protect that? We can talk about that a little bit more when I pitch our product. Okay. iOS and Android, the flexibility to work there, mobile workers, smartphones, and tablets. The other thing is mobile device management. Is anybody using any MDM? AirWatch or anything like that? Okay, so there you go. If you're not doing it and you have a big presence out there with remote workers using mobile devices or all your workers using mobile devices, take a look at that because there's a lot of vulnerability in allowing users just to connect through on these bring your own devices. Okay, so being able to know who's connecting, what applications are running, being able to look to see if those devices are jailbroken. The list goes on. Some products work better than others. Some are cloud-based. Some come with a solution. But really take a look to make sure however you're delivering your service to your employees, you're hitting every one of these areas. Okay? Because the worst thing you can do is infect this back here. Okay? All right. So let's look at the application delivery. Excuse me. So we talked a little bit about ADCs. They started with load balancing. Okay? And again, what that was is you put a device here. When a client connects to it, it basically load balances a load across multiple backend servers. Okay? That was big for a while. And then what happened was you have all these backend applications servers that now they all require SSL. Right? You want all that traffic encrypted, especially in healthcare. Okay? So the problem with that is that each of these application servers get overwhelmed with encrypting and decrypting this traffic. Okay? So the performance decreases. So what do you do if your server back here, if the resource spikes up? Okay, and their connections spike up, well, you keep adding more and more and more. Okay, so again, you put the load balancer in, and you're load balancing, but you have to keep adding these real services back here because they can't handle the encryption and decryption, so the performance gets very slow. So what we started to do, and APV, all our competitors started doing, is they started doing SSL offloading. So it's a great idea, but now if you think about it from a security standpoint, you're really not just increasing the performance by saying, okay, we're going to do all the SSL inspection here and then pass it uninspected here. Okay, so all these perform much better. It increases the performance, but now that we have the SSL here, we have central SSL management. We're inspecting all the traffic on a purpose-built device that's designed to handle that load. And then you start building in things like content filtering and route-based policies and being able to really dissect the packets and say, okay, we're going to actually reject this. We're going to send them over here. Okay, or maybe you have somebody unauthenticated that comes in and say, okay, they're unauthenticated. We're going to move them over here where they're forced to authenticate before we bring them back in. Okay, so now you're able to use this APV to start directing traffic and really managing that traffic. And on top of that, it doesn't now have to be just external. It's also for internal users. Okay? So once you have this in place, you can start taking these application servers, which really is the core of your business, and start hiding them behind an application delivery controller so they're not exposed at all to your network. Okay? So there's no direct connection to these unless it goes through the APV where that traffic is inspected. That make sense? So that's the SSL encryption, the offloading. Also the WAF capabilities and the web proxy. Okay? So what is web proxy? Web proxy is the ability for anything with SSL to get encrypted and decrypted here. And then what we do is we terminate that session here, and then it goes unencrypted to the backend server. Okay? So again, whether it be an internal user or an external user, they're not making these direct connections. The APV does it. Okay? We proxy that connection back. Okay, so that's going to give you that added layer of security. Acceleration. So there's WAN out there, okay, and that's there's great products, but just with an APV, what you're doing is you're getting the SSL offloading, compression, caching, traffic shaping, etc. Okay, so you're able to, with this one product, achieve much better performance. Okay, this says 10 times. We've seen things where you do SSL offloading and you can get up to an 80% increase in performance while adding additional layers of security. High availability, built into all this. Server load balancing, global server load balancing, link load balancing, 24/7 uptime. How many people here are in the cloud? Okay. Who's in AWS or Azure? What cloud are you in?
Microsoft Cloud?
Okay, Azure. Okay, great. So I'll talk about it. All of our products are in all the all the cloud providers. But who here has on-premise, and who has a DR in the cloud, or a DR in another data center? Okay. So one thing to think about is this key right here, global server load balancing. So the big thing is, we'll go into a customer and they'll talk about the DR plan. They say, we're using this application to replicate from point A to point B. Okay, and they think they're golden. Okay, the issue is if you have a disaster or a failover, how do you get user to point B? Okay? And the first response is always, well, we'll just make DNS changes. And my first response is that really what you want to do when you have a disaster is worry about making DNS changes. Okay? That's the last thing you want to worry about. Okay? So my background, I actually worked for a company. We did healthcare in the cloud. So we support over 5,000 physicians in the cloud. And this was a big problem, okay? So when the customer had an issue at our primary data center, if we had to rely on us to go in here and make all these changes, we'd be dead in the water, okay? This automates everything. It says, okay, there's health checks in place. This side is not responding, or maybe this application is not responding over here. Automatically update the A records, change everybody to go to here. From an IT standpoint, you don't have to worry about that anymore, okay? It's all handled for you. And these devices here are packed filled with these features. 24/7 uptime. Again, we're using all these functions, you're going to have that. Any questions? Go ahead.
When you talk about the load balancing and transfer to the site, how does that also work with DDoS? Like a denial of service, and is it the same type of thing where we know that there's available or not available, and would they offload it at that point?
No, what it would do is it would actually understand it, and then it would drop those packets and reject them. So it wouldn't allow that traffic to continue. Or you could actually take that and kind of put that, shove that aside, where it can be inspected later through something else. So yeah, it's not gonna take that traffic and cross it over to the other location. Yeah, it's gonna be able to inspect that and say, hey, something's wrong here. Send out some sort of alert and kind of set that aside.
Shut yourself down otherwise.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So I told you this was going to be a long presentation. Okay? Let's see, how am I doing so far on time? My watch isn't it. But what I want to do is talk a little bit about our products. Okay? Introduce you to them. There's a lot of competitors out there. All of us do different things well. Okay? So our APV is that application delivery controller, and our AG is that secure access gateway. Okay? So again, APV is going to focus in on that load balancing, SSL offloading, caching, compression, application security, and layer 7 scripting. Okay? The AG is going to focus on secure remote access. Okay? So what makes our product different is that it's based off Freebsd. It's completely stripped down. Okay? Every service and function that's not needed to run our software or application is taken away. And then it's hardened, okay? So what does that mean? We only expose service ports. So there's no other services running on that can be turned on, that could create any security issue, okay? Secure network management using SSL and HTTPS. So you're gonna use, the web browser, HTTPS, or you're gonna use like SSH. And it's tested and hardened against a range of network attacks, okay? And then we have the high availability and cluster capability. So when I say this, it's really a lean software. Okay, we take a copy of FreeBSD and we just take everything away, and we only put in what's needed to run our applications. Also, you'll see here that we have our proprietary secure SSL stack. We don't rely on OpenSSL. Okay, so you'll know that was a Heartbleed and Bash and all the other vulnerabilities came out. What was the first thing you had to do? You had to patch your devices, right? Okay. We were immune to that because we don't rely on OpenSSL. We have our own stack. Okay. And that's big because if you have to update firmware or patches, what do you have to expect? Downtime. Okay. So it might be a small patch, it might be quick, but it's downtime. Okay. And it has to be quick. So all of our products are built off what we call SpeedCore, and that's our proprietary OS. Okay? All of our products come in physical and virtual. We'll talk about that later. And they're available in all the major cloud providers. Okay? We'll go back one. You'll see here, button down design works faster and prevent fewer attacks and vectors. All right, let's kind of translate that. What that means is that everything within our product is drop down and click. So you'll notice with some of the other competitors out there, when you're trying to configure, load balancing or SSL offloading, you're dealing with lots of scripting. Okay. I myself, I don't have time for that. I want to drop down, click, figure out what I want to do, and make it run. And then I want to be able to teach that to somebody else. Okay, so that I'm not the only one responsible for it. Okay, that's what our product does. And by doing that, it makes less calls to the CPU, so we can actually outperform the others. Okay? Drop down and click. So you want to, import your cert. It's import. You import it in. You assign it to a virtual service. You assign the group method. Say you want to do, iCookie or round robin least connection, whatever type of server load balancing. Just click, click, click. You're done. You can actually, and I've done this with customers that are evaluating. Did a full setup from start to finish in like 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops. Whereas with their competitors, they scratch their head for about an hour before they even click the button. Because it's different. Ours is simple, very straightforward. And because of that, it does not impact the performance because it's all hard-coded. So we also have this in the middle. It's the AVX. You'll see the 10650. So what's unique about this, and I don't know if anybody here has a situation like this, but it can hold up to 32 instances, okay, of a product. And I say of a product because it can hold 32 APVs, it can hold 32 access gateways, it can hold anything because it's an open platform, okay? So the AVX is a 2U appliance, okay, that allows you to import virtual instances of our product or third-party products and then dedicate SSL IO compute resources. Okay, so it's going to give you guaranteed performance. So what we like to say, it gives you the performance of a physical appliance with the flexibility of virtual. Okay, this slide is showing just our products. But keep in mind, this AVX is an open platform. Anything KVM-based can be imported into it. So if you have other virtual, maybe you have a WAF, and you want to put your WAF in here, you can. Or if you have a firewall, you can put your firewall in here if you can. And what you're doing is you're getting the advantage of our, yeah.
I was just curious about the licensing.
Sure.
How does the licensing work?
Okay. So the great thing about this is that it's pay as you grow. Okay. So we have 4 different license packs. Okay. And we have an AVX 3600, which is an entry-level AVX, 7600, and then 10650. So the 7600 is half the 10650, and the 3600 is half of the 7600. But what you can do is you can say, you know what, I want the performance out of this box, and I want the flexibility of virtuals. So I'm going to license it for Service Pack 1, which is going to give me 1 large instance and 2 small. And what that means is, small, large, basically it's equivalent to performance specs. So you can say, okay, my IPv or my needs for that are going to be, I need 3 gig throughput, okay, and I need X amount of transactions per second, okay. So we can say, okay, that's a small. So you can have up to X amount of small on here, okay. So and then you can actually, once you meet that the limitations of that license pack, you can then upgrade to the next license pack and open it up more. The thing is, you get the hardware that's fully capable of handling. This here alone is up, I think right now it's 170 gig throughput both ways.
So you don't change the box.
You don't have to change the box. Okay? So if you're looking at shrinking the footprint in your data center, it's a really nice way to go. If you're looking for guaranteed performance in virtual instances, this is the way to go. There's nobody else out there right today that does this, okay, and can guarantee, and you pay as you grow, okay? F5 comes close, but they're also 2 to 3 times more expensive, okay? So it's a really nice product. You'll see, we're going to be releasing more and more information. It was locked down to our appliances, but we've since made it an open platform, okay? And again, it can handle the APD and our AG as well. So this would be our scale. You'll see at the low end, this is 1600, goes all the way up to the 11600, okay? So every one of these devices has the same feature and function set, features and functions, okay? So really what limits you is the throughput and the transactions per second, okay? And keep in mind, this is 30 gigs in, 30 gigs out. 35 gigs in, 35 gigs out. So if you look here, you're looking at small business, maybe a few applications that you want to drop a delivery controller in and maybe do some load balancing, maybe do some SSL offloading, and then you've got the enterprise, okay? A lot of our customers, or most of our customers, are going to fall between the 2600 and the 3600, okay? And then if you look at SaaS providers, they're usually going to be kind of in here, the 7600, and then large enterprise are going to go like the 11600. Then obviously we have the AVX and our virtuals. And you'll see VMware, Zen Server, AZ, KVM, and Hyper-V. And you'll see over here SoftLayer, VMware, Azure, and Amazon. Okay? So all of our products, especially virtual, are good for evaluation. You can go onto our website and you can request a trial, and then we'll walk you through that. Well, you'll see it's very scalable. So at the low end, you might be like, might be a smaller needs, but as you grow, you may bump up into a 2600, 3600. We're not unlocking features, we're just giving you better hardware to run our software on, and it unleashes more throughput and transactions per second. Any questions?
Yeah. So the 6600 all the way up to 1160 is all on the same hardware?
No, it's all different hardware. It looks the same, right?
Yeah,
It looks the same, but it's different hardware. So like the 7600 is going to have, more memory. Obviously it's going to have bigger disk because it's going to handle more caching, more compression. They're all going to be multi-core capable. All of them from the 2600 up, you can get 10 gig. So it's all uses the Cavion cards or the Matrix cards. You can get the 1600 just software. If you don't need the hardware SSL, you can do software based. They all do ECC. They'll do WebSocket support. They'll do what else do they do? So the WebSocket, ECC, SNI. So the ability to have multiple certificates connected to a single virtual service, so that way you can actually cut down on those public IP addresses you're using. So we had one customer that had about 30 public IP addresses they were using. They cut it down to one IP. Okay. So our Access Gateway, which we talked about, you'll see the same thing. Low end 300 users all the way up to 128,000 concurrent users. Okay. In my personal opinion, I would say never go more than the 1150, because why would you want to put more than 10,000 users on one box anyway? But we guarantee performance. So from, if you go with the 1150, user 1 gets the same experience as user 10,000. Okay? The way we do that is how we actually can kind of cap each user's experience and their throughput. Okay? So our competitors, a lot of times, we'll do a POC and they'll say, wow, your competitive products, when one user was hooked up and their throughput was through the roof. And it's like, and hook up 10, well, it comes down, hook up 100, comes down, until there's nothing left. With ours, user 1 all the way up gets the same experience. Again, it's the hardware that basically changes the user account. Okay? We also have our virtual instances. Don't believe 10,000 concurrent users. You can do it. That's marketing. But take the total throughput of a virtual instance, divide that by the amount of users, and how much throughput you want, and that's going to be your real number. Okay? Theoretically, you can put 10,000 users on there, but it will be a snail's pace. Okay? The difference between virtual and physical is that the physical uses the SSL card, where virtual is going to use an Intel chipset from your hypervisor. Okay? So you're going to get much better performance at the higher level. However, I will say that for most of our customers, the virtual seems to be okay, up to about 600 to 1,000 users. Okay? That's all I have. Told you it was going to be short. Any questions?
So they can even create that virtual.
Oh, I'm sorry, what's that?
They can even process those virtual.
I'm sorry, what?
They can even process those.
Oh yeah, yeah. So if like for the virtuals, yeah. So we do high availability with everything. So you can have up to 32 units in a take care. We do support active and active passive, but you can also throw a load balancer in front of the Access Gateway. So if you wanted, say you wanted to do 10,000 users, just throw a load balancer in front and have multiple DXADs. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? Is that quick? Yeah.